that we were been looking at all week in terms of this shift, the disconnect, and what's moving and how it's moving and why. Well, yesterday we know exactly what was going on. As a matter of fact, you take a look over at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ started off strong, continued to be strong, and continued to be strong all the way into the close. The Dow, on the other hand, did have a little bit of a leap up. It did sort of ease back along with the S&P, but what was really going on underneath? So technology, that was up right out of the gate, 2.5%. and held on to a little over 2% for the day. But the SMH, you look up at the semiconductors, you look over at the biotech index itself, and you see all kinds of movement to the upside. A really, really strong performance day. As a matter of fact, biotech actually got a little bit stronger throughout the day, and the semiconductors did hold on. And when I say hold on, they were already up 4.25% very early and just sort of flatlined after that. But another 300-plus point move again for one of the major indices, and in this case, the NASDAQ, and a little bit less coming out of what we were seeing in the Dow. But the Dow, because of the composite, you've got a lot of different technology type names in there. You've got Salesforce and Microsoft, obviously Apple. I'll throw in Intel because it's semiconductor, so that ties in as well. All pulling it up along with Boeing. And Boeing has had paper after paper after paper. We've been talking about that. When I say paper, option buying. And that has been relentless in terms of what we've seen from Boeing. So volatility trade right around 2180, somewhere in that range. So relatively low once again. 42 million contracts. Yep, 42.2 million contracts yesterday. Now, in the million contract club, we got Apple, we got GE, and Tesla. What stands out, though, is what we were seeing in GE yesterday. First of all, that's incredible volume, not something we see very frequently for that to spike up and have that kind of a volume day. But as I talked about yesterday, there's been this shift, and the shift coming from when the stock actually started to come back in the single digits and bounced off of that 5-6 level and got up towards 8, all the option paper moved from all those put buyers to call buyers. Well, recently, as the stock actually did finally get up to 52-week highs over 14, then we started to see a little bit more activity, and that activity was on the put side. And we were seeing some of that yesterday definitely in action. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Energy, another great day. The XOP continues to be where the beta names are and how they've been performing. And that certainly is something that has been standing out for a while now. So let's jump into today real quick. It's interesting because it seems to be a market that's trading essentially off of the 10-year, right? So when you look and you see the 10-year going in one direction or the other, you suddenly, you almost can close your eyes and figure out where we're going. So what I mean by that is the 10-year today is up about, 5%. It's at 1.6. So what's going to really be moving? Well, it certainly isn't the NASDAQ, because the NASDAQ started off down about 200 points. Then we opened around 225 points to the downside. Had a nice little bit of a recovery. We were down about 150, 160 points. And last I looked, we were down about 200 points on the NASDAQ. So you flip over and you look over at the Dow, and suddenly you see a completely different picture. Up about 40 or 50 points, then up about 75 points, and then up about 100 and a quarter. And last I looked, we were up about 130, 140 points on the Dow as well. So that complete disconnect that we've been seeing and how that's connected to what people are calling value, I'll call them quality oftentimes, but quality from the standpoint of fundamental story and what's really moving and what's getting hit. For instance, yesterday, what was really getting the upside moves, we certainly saw out of many, but the downside moves, like a day like today, what we're seeing is the downside moves coming into DocuSign and Peloton and all those names that we talk about where they either are high or no multiple type names. That certainly does stand out. Hey, let's just jump in right here. I'm pretty excited about the day already. It's Friday. We get to close out the week. Financials, definitely strong early. Obviously, you take a look over at the 10-year, and that sort of usually does transfer over just very, very nicely. You got Boeing, you got 3M working on the industrial side again, and then you look at those financials, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, and obviously all of these various names. American Express just continues to be a stock that just continues to move to the upside. So, sticking with that a little bit, let's hit the unusual. So LC, that's LC, LendingClub. That one stands out. Stock was trading about $13.75. We got a buyer of 18,000 of the April 17 calls. They started at about 30 cents. They paid up to about 80 cents for those calls. That's a nice, healthy, thick kind of a trade. Like to see that. Like to see that kind of chunkiness there of that trade. So that one definitely stood out early. MGM, we talk about reopen all the time. We have talk about the vaccines and stimulus and vaccines and all of that lately that's been going around and obviously dominating for the right reasons the conversation. Well, MGM, certainly in that sort of a category. MGM Resorts was trading around 39. We got a buyer of 5,000 of the March, so not a whole lot of time here, but the March 39 calls. And hedging those against selling the 42 calls. So not looking for an absolute blowout to the upside, so they're capping up the upside a little bit by selling the 42s, but getting a little bit of premium there. These March 39s are going for about $1, a little over $1, call it $1.07 on average. So that was something that stood out. We talk about the reopen, we talk about all of this stuff, and I think we really did see some pretty interesting paper early on. We are seeing a lot right now early. We had that pause in the middle part of the week where it felt a little slow, and it was when we looked at the final volumes of the day. We've started to pick right back up again yesterday, and I think that today looks like it wants to be another pretty active day as well. So good luck trading. Have the knowledge. You have to have the knowledge of the derivatives markets. That is where the growth is. We talk about it all the time. Get that education. Check out the book. Get the education from the Market Rebellion team. Best educators in the business. I'm telling you right now, this is the place to be. It's great. We really love it. It's why we all have smiles each and every day. Have a great weekend and have a great time trading.